In January 2015, for the first time, President Obama proposed to make the college free for responsible students for 2 years. And 4 years later, in June 2019, Bernie Sanders proposed just a bigger plan. It is to eliminate tuitions for all 4 years college and university, also to eliminate all student debt and lowers the debt interest for 45 million Americans. And as a student, I also believe that college should be free for all. So today, first I will talk about the shift in labor requirements. Second, I will mention about our student current financial struggling. And lastly, I will talk about how America fall behind other countries in education's investments. First of all, about the shift in labor requirements, which such a developed economy in the world, Americans' workplace require more and more employees with higher educations. There are more job opening for people with higher degree than the people with just high school diploma. According to the statistics of the Bureau of Labor, in 2019, the unemployment rate of people with just the high school diploma is 4.3, while the unemployment rate of people with associate degrees is 3.5. So it's almost like 1 point down the rate. And also, a century ago, our grandparents' generations can earn a middle class living um, with just a high school diploma. But our current generations, it's really difficult to find a such good high payment job to support ourselves. According to Kristen Bialix in her article, um, Millennial Life, How Young Adulthood Today Compared to Prior Generations. Um, this is this is the graph of the earning, the difference between our grandparent generations and our current generations. And from the graph, you can see that with the people with just high school graduate, their earning decreased from 37,000 to 31,000, and the earning of people with bachelor degrees increased from 51,000 to 56,000 a year. And you can see that the bigger gap between the bigger gap of the earning between the two degree in our generations. So, and now I will talk about our student current financial struggling, and um, the extremely expensive tuitions prevent students to graduate or force them to graduate with such a huge debt. So, according to Fox Business and Lane Edu, uh, more than half of more than half amount of students claim that they had to postpone their graduations because they were unable to find more funding. And about 79% of students say that they don't have enough money to pay for school, or if some of them can make it to graduations, they are in such a huge debt. So, according to Persuasive, this is the statistic uh, was published in 2019 about the average student loan debt each year for every state. And you can see California, the average loan debt will be around 22,000 a year, and this number tend to increase every year. However, there are some opponents. They claim that to make the tuition free, it doesn't make the college free. There are still some expense like living expense and textbook for students. Also, if we make the college free, when we encourage more students to enroll in college, um, there are more reserved for academic staff to take care of that amount of students. So for that, we have to understand correctly the purpose of Benya Center. He still want to keep the financial parent financial aid for students to help them with living expense and textbook. Also, he also want to invest more on academic staff because he want to improve the quality of educations. The thing he want to cut out is the spend on luxury dome and stadium. So now lastly, I will talk about how America fallen behind other countries in educations. We are the number one developed with the number one developed economic country in the world because we used to be the leading country in educations. So in the historical article from Grand Cat, in our history, there used to be a program called the GI Bills. President Roosevelt signed the GI Bills in 1944 to let 16,000 soldiers return 16 million soldiers return home from World War One to enter any institutions, allied school, and vocational school for free. And with that program, that increased the country intellectual capital exponentially. The GI Bills have earned America's 22,000 dentists, 67,000 doctors, 91,000 scientists, 238,000 teachers, 240,000 accountants, and 450,000 engineers, plus 14 Nobel Prize winners. So you can see, like when in history, when we give the soldier the chance to study, there is such a huge impact later on to the economies and the country. But sadly, nowadays, Americans fall behind other countries in the world in education investment. According to Richard Escar in his article, tuition free higher educations must be offered. The U.S. has extremely most expensive tuitions in the world, and the U.S. ranked the 14th in the world of the percentage of 25 to 34 years old employee with higher educations. So, uh, in conclusions, there must be a reasons that President Obama and Bernie Sanders think ahead about the educations of the country. And as a student, I also believe that college should be free for all. The very first step to the right side is a significant step. And if we keep hesitate, we just keep stay in the same place. The more time we waste, the more generations have to suffer from debt and tuitions, the bigger the impact to the economic and country later on. Thank you so much for listening.